And we're live, and we have major news, major news from the Supreme Court and also on Letitia James. Oh, and a little bit of news on the personal front with this particular podcast that I'm super excited to share with you. Yeah, lots going on. Welcome to the program, everyone. I am Trish Regan. We want to talk about Letitia poll numbers that are sinking as we speak, absolutely positively sinking. And I'm telling you, her political career is over. She's going to be voted out as AG. Just days ahead, by the way. These numbers come just days ahead of the grand jury indictment. Subpoenas have been issued. Meanwhile, the Supreme Court just out literally minutes ago with a huge ruling saying that the 500,000 people from Haiti, Venezuela, Nicaragua, a few other places that were allowed in by the Biden administration through some kind of parole program for migrants, that program can indeed end. The Supreme Court ruling that Donald Trump and his administration has the ability now to deport and end the special parole that these people were getting. 500,000 migrants will be affected. So that's huge. Plus, DHS is targeting 30 sanctuary cities, pulling federal funds. Hey, you know what? You guys want to play that sanctuary game? Well, guess what? We're going to trump you, pun intended, all day long in court. We're pulling your money. Meanwhile, CBS News, boy, they're folding big time to Donald Trump. And I can't forget the most important headline of all. You know what? This is exciting, super exciting news. I just got the news yesterday. We are, right here on the Trish Regan Show, one of the top 100 podcasts on all of YouTube, like top 100 in the world on all of YouTube. So I am so honored and I'm so thrilled and I'm so flattered and I can't believe what we have all been able to create here together. Because this has been from day one, kind of, it started as a labor of love, right? I was like, let me try this YouTube thing. Who knows, you know? And it has turned into just a massive, super successful, exciting project. And to be honored there in the top 100, I think we're number 52. Okay, so we're in the middle. But hey, when you compare us with some of the people that are way up there with millions and millions and millions of subs, I mean, we're just 813,000 somewhat strong, right? Here for subscribers on this channel. So I'm telling you, we're just getting started. And I'm blown away by your generosity, your support, and how you guys have gotten the word out. So this is in terms of viewership, how long people are watching the show, because you just stay tuned. Wow, we are in the top 100 in the world. So I'm blown away, super excited. It's a huge accomplishment. Welcome to the show. Make sure you subscribe if you have not already. Indeed, Letitia James, Letitia baby is going to be out as Attorney General, likely to be voted out. I'm looking at these poll numbers and I mean, she kind of barely had a shot as it was. She was already suffering. I'm just going to tell you, she was really kind of struggling in the last go around. And now you got the state of New York that I'm telling you is not as liberal or anti-Trump as New York City. And as a result of that, you know what? They're going to vote her out. They're going to vote her out. I mean, New York City is not as important as it once was. And this is what the City Journal just came out with this week. Letitia James's campaign is on the ropes. I mean, I don't even know how they're going to have any money, right? Because who wants to donate to a woman who's about to go to prison for 30 years because of falsifying, allegedly, her mortgage application documents? She's at odds also with like one of the big issues. So Siena College did this poll, and what they found was that the majority of New Yorkers were very comfortable and very much for the deportation of illegal immigrants. And yet that is not something Letitia James believes in at all. So just to go through some of the numbers with you, 79% of the people in New York that would be voting Letitia out, they back deporting immigrants that have been convicted of a crime. Don't forget, Letitia is trying to prevent ICE from getting into Rikers. Fortunately, the mayor of New York, Eric Adams, worked with Tom Homan, and what do you know? ICE is back at Rikers Island, so they're able to do their job there. But it's in this sort of defiance of what Letitia James has going on. 39% back deporting immigrants with no criminal record. 42% opposed that, but 39% backed it. And then the rest of them kind of don't really know or they don't want to say. 59% do not want taxpayers paying for migrants' medical care. I mean, that's a biggie. You're talking about basically 60%, let's call it, right? Only 26% were in favor and the others didn't want to say or didn't know. So when you have the majority of New Yorkers saying, you know what, we don't want to pay for somebody else's medical care, Letitia, you're once again at odds with the rest of your state. 48% support federal efforts to deport all illegal migrants. Only 31% oppose it. You know, this deportation of illegal migrants is becoming such an issue. You know, those in New York City that may support Letitia James, oh, they're very particular with their language. Like this lady on CNN, who's just terrible at her job, by the way. Like she almost doesn't have all the wires connecting upstairs, which is really funny when you see Stephen Miller actually go on with her. Oh, this is great. Okay, but this is the point on immigration. Remember where New Yorkers are. They want illegals that are here and have committed a crime deported. They want even illegals that are here illegally deported. And so Stephen Miller gets into it with the CNN lady.
I am, and that's why I said that. I clarified that.
You said undocumented, and I wasn't clear what that means. I'm assuming they have a fake ID. I'm assuming they have a fake social security number.
That's neither here nor there. That's getting away from the question, Stephen. I want this to be, and call me naive, a good faith discussion about what's happening right now.
But when we use language that's designed to obscure the truth, that's not good faith.
All right,
an illegal alien is an illegal alien. They're not an undocumented migrant.
Okay, that's fine. That's another discussion for another day.
Another discussion for another day. Oh, believe me, they keep going at it. I'm actually going to show you a few more clips from Stephen Miller because they're just unbelievable, and you got to see them. But there's going to be a lot of Stephen Miller. So if you're not a Stephen Miller fan in this show, watch out because we get a few more really priceless moments coming from him. He was on the airwaves, all over the airwaves this morning, and obviously with the immigration news, that's a big, big deal. But again, I want to get back to these poll numbers because as you look at these, they're really, really softening, and this is what the City Journal is now reporting because they're looking at her vis-a-vis Kathy Hochul. They also actually brought up an interesting thing, and you know, for what it's worth, take it for what it's worth. They're saying that Andrew Cuomo, if he's elected mayor of New York, and their belief is that he will, so you know, take that again with a grain of salt, but that he's going to make her life absolutely miserable because they are political rivals, and he doesn't like Letitia James. And don't forget, she was the one who was sort of trying to put the nail in his coffin back when he was going down as a result of some of that 2020 stuff and, you know, the charges with women, etc. So no love lost there. So she's going to have the political odds effectively stacked against her, leading the City Journal to say, you know, they don't think that she's going to make it. And I think that, you know, when you sum up all these big issues that are plaguing New York right now, and then you look at her history of challenges and sort of where she has been on some of these issues that politically are just not aligned, especially when it comes to immigration with the rest of New York, then she's going to have some big problems, right? You know, I found this the other day, and I wanted to share this with you. When she was riding high after she had gotten that $500 million verdict against one Donald Trump, she came out with a very interesting statement, and I think this is going to come back to haunt her in a huge way as we see that case move forward with her grand jury indictment coming any day now because of the alleged mortgage fraud. She said something really clever. She said, when powerful people cheat to get better loans, this is her talking about Trump, it comes at the expense of honest and hardworking people. Everyday Americans cannot lie to a bank, to get a mortgage, to buy a home. And if they did, our government would throw the book at them. There simply cannot be different rules for different people. Now, Donald Trump is finally facing accountability for his lying, cheating, and staggering fraud. Because no matter how big, rich, or powerful you think you are, no one is above the law. Wow, this is like poetic. I mean, like, wow, Tishy, honey, it's like you wrote it for yourself, right? I mean, she's using federal taxpayer dollars. That's the kicker in all this. I mean, at least he may have inflated his square foot edge on some of his properties, and he may have thought it was worth one thing when, you know, she thinks it's worth another. I'm going to go with what the bank thinks, right, in that case, because they're the ones taking on the risk and the loan. But in the case of Letitia James, she's actually using your money, federal taxpayer dollars, to fund her alleged mortgage fraud, and therein lies the problem. The director of the Federal Housing Authority, one William Pulte, came out the other day. This is relatively new sound. I think we did play it for you as soon as it came out, but I love this because he's pointing out that he knows what mortgage fraud is, and Letitia is guilty.
Recommended that the DOJ investigate New York Attorney General Letitia James over alleged mortgage fraud. The AG, Letitia James, has responded. We don't have the video, but here's the quote. "This investigation into me is nothing more than retribution. It's baseless. It has to do with the fact that on a power of attorney, I mistakenly indicated that I was a state of Virginia resident. And prior to that, I indicated to the mortgage broker that, in fact, in bold cap letters, that I am not a resident of Virginia and never will be. They just took the power of attorney, and they're using that as a basis for enforcement of their investigation." Bill, do you know why she said she was a resident of Virginia on the power of attorney, if, in fact, she wasn't?
Well, I know that we are mortgage experts, and we only refer things that we think are mortgage fraud, and we stand 100% behind the letter. I'll let the letter speak for itself. I do know, and I have seen some reports from that subject, from that subject's criminal defense lawyer, saying certain things. I'll leave it to the DOJ to correct various things. But again, when we see mortgage fraud, we are going to report it. When we see mortgage fraud, we are going to prosecute it within the confines of our duties. And we are not going to be intimidated by a subject's criminal defense lawyer. We are not going to be intimidated by a politician, or just because you have an Esquire behind your name. We are not going to be intimidated by people. If we see mortgage fraud, we're going to do something about it. And I think that you're going to see us be taking this on in a big way. Mortgage fraud is a big problem. These companies are safe and sound, but where we see it, we are going to do something about it. And that subject's case is no different.
Well, what are the ramifications of this now that you've referred this for criminality to the DOJ?
Well, I would refer that to the DOJ. Again, as I say, we spend our days, we are mortgage experts. We are not politicians. I view this as an economic job. Obviously, the president can fire me at any time, so I guess in that way. But look, I look at this as an independent agency. We found the mortgage fraud, whether it be that particular subject or other subjects, and we work actively with the DOJ and different law enforcement.
Wow. Okay. So I love how he calls her the subject. The subject. All right. Let's get to those poll numbers. Here, I want to show you what they're saying because she's just not in very good shape. I mean, she's basically, everybody keeps talking about Chuck Schumer. And what I just want to say, and how he's just in such bad shape, and, you know, gosh, AOC can make a run for it. Look at her. She's doing a lot worse than Chuck Schumer. The 40% favorable rating that she's getting, it's coming entirely from New York City. Okay, but then you look at unfavorable, that's pretty high at 33%. And then you look at the 27% that don't know, and you know, you add those up, you're looking at 60%. Okay, this is very different than in 22. She's looking at a whole different set of numbers right now. So yeah, I have every expectation that Letitia James is going to be voted out in New York. And a lot of it is because of what she did to Donald Trump and how people are perceiving that. A lot of it is because of where she stands on immigration and how at odds she is with the rest of the state. And a lot of it is because a lot of people are just not going to want somebody who was lying on her federal loan applications, allegedly, when she was trying to go after Donald Trump for that. Now, you know, she's saying, oh, this is just a technicality. It's just a technicality, nothing to see here. I beg to differ when you look at the succession, right? The succession of alleged crimes, as Stephen Miller also pointed out this week.
One of the most corrupt, shameless individuals ever to hold public office. She's guilty not only of those crimes, but of countless more crimes, by using and abusing your public office to try to persecute an innocent man, depriving him of his rights, engaging in a conspiracy to obstruct our election, and to overthrow our democratic processes and procedures. She is guilty of multiple significant serial criminal violations.
You better believe it. Joe Burnell, thank you for the generosity. You better believe we're going for 1 million here on this channel. 800 some odd thousand subs, 1 million, 2 million. Here we come. Yeah, you know what? I have a feeling Letitia's, you know what, is Letitia's tushy. How do you like that? Tish's tushy is going to be in prison, okay? Because this is a big deal. It carries up to 30 years. And when he's talking about a serial criminal aspect to this, you think about putting down on that mortgage application. I'm sorry, she's a lawyer. She can tell us, oh, it's just a power of attorney, all she wants. She's trying to say it's her principal residence as recently as 2023 when she was in the middle of the litigation against Donald Trump. I mean, come on. Tishy, those in glass houses, shall we say, should not be throwing stones. Take a look at the house that that she was in, okay? This Norfolk, Virginia house. That's the house in question. Then there's the brownstone in Brooklyn. When we say, serial violator, potentially 2001, she's owned that house since, and she's been saying it's 4 levels instead of 5 because you get a better rate on the mortgage because you qualify for federal funds. Woo! And then there's this one, 1983. I realize it was a while ago, but who the heck puts yourself down as your dad's wife just because you want to buy a place, right? This is all adding up to a huge amount of trouble. The media is mad at her. Voters are mad at her. She will be voted out. Look at this. New York Magazine, of all things, we've been talking about this, how even the liberal parts of New York, media members in New York are turning on her because they know Letitia is out. I mean, one of the interesting things that they write is in this particular piece, it's a fact beyond reasonable dispute that Letitia James weaponized her official power as New York's Attorney General to pursue Donald Trump for political purposes. Okay, so when they're saying that, I have a feeling it's pretty bad, not to mention that they talk about how it got this massive $500 million fine against him. It does need to be thrown out. But she was, quote, wildly inappropriate in her out-of-court statements. Things that would ordinarily, they say, get a prosecutor fired. And yet she was allowed to get away with this? Come on. I mean, even when the court knew that this is all ridiculous, right? They even voiced all that skepticism. They said it over and over. Here's one of the judges. I mean, this is a private transaction. Why the heck are you bringing it to us? Period.
It was using...
I'm sorry, but what's being described sounds an awful lot like a potential commercial dispute between private actors.
Well, to go back to the first question about whether there's other examples of this, there are other examples of this. In the First American case, the Attorney General brought a 6312 case where the transaction at issue was between a very big bank, Wells Fargo, and a professional appraisal firm.
But wasn't the concern there that the public would ultimately be negatively impacted and affected by...
And in this particular case, it's a confined, smaller transaction where you actually have no victims, and the bank said they do the loan again 10 times over. So now the Eastern District of Virginia has issued those subpoenas, and one can expect that an indictment is coming momentarily as this grand jury investigation begins. One of the most amazing parts of it all, though, is that she is so sort of tone deaf, again, to the voters who are going to vote her out, that she's out there trying to take their money to cover her legal expenses. Again, back to this polling information, I want to point out that Siena College Research Institute poll from earlier this year found that while James has more favorable poll numbers than Hochul, Kathy Hochul, she's definitely out, her 40 to 33% favorable-unfavorable split is actually worse than one would expect for a Democrat attorney general in the state of New York. In other words, she's really underwater as to where she should be, or even to where she previously has been. Taking a look again at those numbers, look at that. As I said, 40% favorable, 33% unfavorable, with 27% not knowing, adding up to 60%, very much in doubt. And who knows how much people are still saying in some of these polls. But this aspect to her, the fact that she's now coming forward and saying, oh, I need money, I need $10 million to fight Donald Trump for myself, for my own personally alleged misdoings, that's not going to fly. People do not like that they're going to have to cover Letitia James. Think about it. The polls show that majority of people in New York don't want to have to cover the Medicaid costs, the medical costs of any of the illegal migrants that she's fighting for. You think they want to cover her legal costs? I don't think so, especially when she's got this high-flying, high-priced attorney. Hey, why don't you just take a public defender, Tishy baby? For free, right? Because, they're cutting off her access now, the GOP is, to these funds as they should. As they should. Because why should New York taxpayers have to cough up money for Letitia James when these are issues of her own doing? Something that was brought up in the New York Post the other day, and again, even New York Magazine, which is pretty darn liberal, saying that this is really unthinkable. She has inexplicably chosen to use the resources of her public office to respond to the investigation, they write, to which I just keep saying it's poetic, it's poetic, it's poetic. It's poetic because I do recall a moment in time on ABC News where Letitia James gave a big interview saying, you know what, if he does not have the money to cover this verdict and these fines, then we will seize his assets. Remember?
4 days after a judge ordered Donald Trump to pay $355 million for a decade of fraud, New York Attorney General Letitia James says she's prepared to do everything she can to make sure the former president pays his fine, including, she told us, seizing the buildings that bear his name.
If he does not have funds to pay off the judgment, then we will seek, judgment enforcement mechanisms in court, and we will ask the judge to seize his assets.
Right? It's poetic. It's sweet justice. Charlotte Lamborn, I know you're from Oregon and you've talked a lot about how there's a lot of people that are actually very conservative out there. I appreciate your generosity and your compliments on this show. Growing. Again, 813,000 strong, on our way to 1 million. Then shortly after 2 million, right? We're going to keep going as one of the top 100 podcasts. Imagine that on YouTube. It's just incredible. But I love this, right? Because it is poetic justice. Oh, we may have to seize his assets. Well, I don't know. It seems like, Tishy baby, you may have to sell some of your assets to cover your legal bills. You know why? You're facing 30 years. This is no joke. Okay, 30 years in federal prison, up to 30 years. I don't know if she'll get it, but 18 U.S.C. 1014, false statements to obtain a federally insured loan. 18 U.S.C. 1001, false statements to the government. These are serious charges, honey baby, and they come with serious consequences. We get a huge win for the administration. I want to tell you about Donald Trump. Breaking news, everyone, right now. Major win on immigration. Take a look at this headline. Supreme Court allows Trump administration to end parole program for some migrants. 500,000 migrants from Cuba, from Haiti, from Nicaragua, from Venezuela. Guess what? That whole deal where they could come into the country and just renew every 2 years, that's getting wiped out, courtesy of the Supreme Court. A major decision, as I said, just released, hot off the presses right now. The unsigned order Friday comes for now after a lower court injunction that stopped the government from removing those protections under a parole program while the case proceeds. So the Biden administration had granted these temporary paroles to large groups of immigrants from these 4 countries if they met certain criteria, allowing them to seek work authorization and other legal protections for 2-year terms. Now, back in March, the DHS, Department of Homeland Security, came in and said, you know what, we don't really think this works. They canceled the mass parole approval program, and what you saw was the Trump administration ramping up its efforts to crack down on this mass immigration. So you have actually 532,000 non-citizens from those 4 countries, as I mentioned, Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela, that are affected according to these court filings. As expected, you had Justices Ketanji Brown Jackson, Sonia Sotomayor saying this is no good. They actually dissented publicly from the court's decision, Jackson writing that the consequences of allowing the administration to move forward and revoke the parole program's protections would be sharply disruptive to the people affected. Again, oh my gosh, we have to care so much about these people who are coming in illegally, and we need to care about them. And I think the Trump administration is saying, no. We actually need to care about us. We need to care about the people that are already in this country. And what the heck was he doing? 532,000 people? I mean, what was going on? Really? I mean, they really were trying to create that borderless society. I think it's pretty obvious. Stephen Miller just obliterated a CNN anchor, if you can call her that, on the program this morning. I got to show you this because he's got a certain magic about him. I mean, he knows the law inside and out, and he is so unafraid and just willing to call it as he sees it. Let's take a listen.
Do you think a judge should just rubber stamp what your White House does? If not, what checks and balances do you think should be in place for this White House?
It is not the job of a district court judge to perform an individual green light or red light on every single policy that the president takes as the head of the executive branch. Just think about the premise baked into your question, respectfully, Pam. You're saying that when the American people elect a president of the United States of America,
I'm not saying
well, it's the implication, who is the sole head of the executive branch. Well, let me finish. I will answer the question happily. But look, when you have these kinds of lazy assumptions built into questions, it makes it hard to have a constructive dialogue.
What is a lazy assumption? I said you all had to win.
You said is it my expectation?
I'm speaking because now you're putting...
You said, is it my expectation? It's not just you. It's the whole media. In other words, when you hear a sentence like...
It is a completely fair question. You say judges who rule against the White House.
And I will gladly answer it. When you say, do we think district court judges should rubber stamp each action? There is a premise that is built into that is absurd. The president is the sole head of the executive branch. He's the only officer in the entire government that's elected by the entire American people. Democracy cannot function. In fact, democracy does not exist at all if each action the president takes, foreign policy, diplomatic, military, national security, has to be individually approved by 700 district court judges. That's democracy. So if there's 15 communist crazy judges on the court, that each of them as a team working together can block and freeze each and every executive action.
Right? Then you get a problem. And that's exactly what keeps coming up over and over again. So this was a small-time judge, right, a lower court injunction that had stopped the administration from trying to get rid of this parole program for 532,000 people that somehow Biden just like waved a magic wand and said, come on in. Do not forget, again, the U.S. Constitution, the supremacy clause in the U.S. Constitution, which, by the way, was challenged in 2012 out in Arizona over the exact issue of immigration. And what was decided was that the federal government has full jurisdiction over who is in this country. And so you can do sanctuary cities all you want, but you know what? If the federal government decides to challenge it, as they are challenging it right now, it's game over. That's when the feds win. And so as a result of that, you now have the administration coming out, DHS, and saying we got 30 cities that are all sanctuary cities, and we're going to strip them of all federal funds because they are not cooperating with ICE. They are not adhering to the law. And so they will be defunded. Why are federal taxpayers paying for the support of people who are here in the country illegally while federal taxpayers elected the president of the United States to get rid of all this stuff? Here is, I'm telling you, it's like the Stephen Miller show today. For goodness sakes, he was great. I mean, he's always great, and he happened to do a lot of TV yesterday and today. So let's listen in.
A goal of a minimum of 3,000 arrests for ICE every day, and President Trump is going to keep pushing to get that number up higher each and every single day so we can get all of the Biden illegals that were flooded into our country for 4 years out of our country. And we can't take the risk of letting these Biden illegals roam around freely so that the next American daughter can get raped, the next American kid can get murdered, the next American family can get splintered and torn apart by people that came into this country unchecked, uncontrolled, unvetted, uninvited by the American people. As to the reconciliation bill, Sean, there's been so much said
about how incredible the big, beautiful bill is. The largest tax cut and reform in American history. The most significant energy reform, unlocking American energy in American history. Deregulation like we have never seen before. The most significant, largest welfare reform in American history. But the bill also includes the complete fulfillment of President Trump's campaign promises on every aspect of immigration and homeland security so that we can have permanently the safest, strongest, most secure immigration system in American history, Sean.
Wow.
Right, so
okay.
secure the border.
So that was there on Hannity last night. As I said, he's been on the airwaves. He's very passionate about this issue. You had 4 years to think about it, guys. That was the problem, right? You know what? You allowed them all back in. And this is not the same administration that we saw before. No way, Jose. All right. Nashville versus the feds. Nashville, Tennessee, for some reason, is fighting this hard. You got Freddie O'Connell down there in Nashville, the mayor, who said he's going to do everything he can to protect the migrants. Again, I'm like, guys, you keep trying that, you're going to lose all your federal funding, and you yourself may actually find yourself in federal prison because you're obstructing the law. Supremacy clause, commerce clause, naturalization clause, you name it, it's all over the Constitution. So anyway, the feds did raid this construction site in Nashville, Tennessee today, and this just came into us. Apparently there were some illegal migrants working there, so they mean business. They're very, very serious about this, and so they are going after the people there. Now they have the Supreme Court allowing for them to deport people, 532,000 non-cities from the 4 countries, Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela, that the previous administration, Joe Biden, was somehow given a green light to. It's all coming as the representative from that area in Nashville, Tennessee, Representative Ogles, Andy Ogles, says he's launching an investigation into the mayor because they don't understand how it is that the mayor can be using federal funds to allow for all this illegal migration to continue.
I will always stand on the rule of law and with ICE. And I don't just stand with ICE, I'll stand in front of ICE. Because we, the people, have had enough. I choose my community, my state, and my family over this type of nonsense. Which is why, due to the remarks of Freddie O'Connell and the potential for aiding and abetting illegal immigration, the Homeland Security and the Judiciary Committees will be conducting an investigation into the mayor of Nashville, his conduct, and whether or not federal dollars have been used in criminal enterprise. I will not back down. I will not relent, and I will always stand with law enforcement. I want my community and I want my country back. This is Andy Ogles. Thank you for being here.
Just amazing, just amazing. Andy Ogles, again, a pretty impressive, passionate commentary from him. I just want to say thanks to Trace, one of our viewers here, for your generosity and for your kind words, and importantly for your service. He is a Marine Corps vet. Thank you so much for that, and thank you for saying congratulations on 800,000. I'm just blown away because we are one of the top, think of all the podcasts in the world, right? Top 100 podcasts on all of YouTube. So that is thanks to you guys. We're beating out The Daily Show with Jon Stewart. I think we beat Ben Shapiro, who I love. But by the way, that's kind of an accomplishment because I think he has 8 million subs. We only get 813,000. So we're growing, and we're going to keep it up. 30 sanctuary cities going to be defunded by DHS, and this is turning into a major ordeal, okay? So impressive. What we've seen thus far, if you would, from, they call her Ice Barbie, and that's meant to be derogatory, but I actually see it as a compliment because she's so pretty. Christy Nome I'm talking about. She's so pretty that the joke is people are like, oh, wait, I just want to get, I want to pretend I'm a migrant and get arrested by Christy Nome. Anyway, she's taking it on in a really, really, really big way. Nashville, watch out. New York City, watch out. Boston, watch out. Los Angeles, watch out. I can go on and on and on. on. Another big story that is in the news today, the liberal media reporting that a migrant has been framed and that it is not fair because DHS, the Department of Homeland Security, again, Kristi Noem's beat, they are coming out and saying that this illegal migrant threatened the life of the president and did so in a letter. And so now they are going after this illegal migrant. And they're saying this isn't fair, that actually he's being framed. I want you to hear Miller's response. I told you the Miller show today. My goodness, it is Miller time. All right, here he is. I think this one's on CNN. You get the CNN host very inarticulately trying to defend here this migrant. And he's like, I'm sorry. You had me at illegal.
Undocumented migrant sent a letter threatening to kill the president, promising to self-deport after the assassination. CNN reporting shows that investigators believe the migrant was set up. It was a victim of a setup. What is the administration going to do now? And this is an undocumented immigrant. I do want to note that, but this was someone who came forward, was a victim of a crime, and now law enforcement believes he was set up. Go ahead.
Well, I want to clarify what you mean, so we're talking about the same thing. Are you saying this immigrant was here illegally?
Yes, but I am, and that's why I said that. I clarified that.
You said undocumented, and I wasn't clear what that means. I'm assuming they have a fake ID. I'm assuming they have a fake social security number.
That's neither here nor there. That's getting away from the question,
country.
Stephen. I want this to be, and call me naive, a good faith discussion about what's happening right now.
But when we use language that's designed to obscure the truth, that's not good faith.
All right,
an illegal alien is an illegal alien. They're not an undocumented migrant.
Okay, that's fine. That's another discussion for another day.
I don't know the details of the assassination threat. All I can say, based on what you're telling me, is there's an illegal alien in our country who's making menacing threats. Regardless of the facts or circumstances, we don't want him here. We're going to get to the bottom of it, and I would gladly come back on when I have more information to share with you.
They were set up, just to be clear. But quickly, where is the White House on habeas corpus?
The illegal alien was treated unfairly. Yes, I'm sure the illegal alien was treated very unfairly.
Where is?
But I think his point is he's here illegally. So if you're here illegally, you're here illegally. Like it's kind of hard to get beyond that, right? That's the elephant in the room. And this is what happened with the Garcia thing. I mean, okay, so apparently he's wrongly deported, but you heard Miller on that one. He's like, he's really not wrongly deported because he was deported because he was believed to be involved in a very serious criminal organization, MS-13. And so as a result, you're going to send him out. Like, what do you expect us to do? Roll over backwards and say, we want to do everything we can for you, to help you, to rehabilitate you. I guess. I mean, why else was Biden saying 532,000 non-citizens from 4 countries could come into this country via this parole program? A parole program that now the Supreme Court is allowing the Trump administration to get rid of. Huge news today. I mean, speaking of Tennessee, by the way, another politician from Tennessee who's not a fan of the migration thing, he's calling out the big auto pen. It's like the auto pen is striking back, right? Because he has a feeling some funny stuff went on. And he's not the only one. James Comr now opening an investigation. But first, my friend Benny had him on his program and listened to what Representative Tim Burchett was saying about the potential for illegal activity that may have gone down vis-a-vis the auto pen, because, whether it be Biden okaying 532,000 people to come here and get this parole program from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, or Venezuela, or whether it be these pardons, like over 8,000 of them, it's clear that Biden wasn't actually doing anything. Heck, the guy was on vacation more than 500 days in his term, most of any president. Yeah, to keep getting all that sun on the beach in Delaware, right? Anyway, listen to Tim Burchett.
Got staffers. I would look, Tennessee has had a history of this. We had a governor several governors ago. He's since passed away, but he sold pardons. You can look it up. His name was Ray Blanton. It made national news. And I mean, they wrote songs, Pardon Me, Ray. And it was a cash for clemency deal. And that's exactly what I think you're going to find out. You're going to find staffers that were able to take forms, get them, and run them through some sort of bogus legal system, and then they auto-pinned them. And there's probably people out on the street that shouldn't be, but somebody got rich off that. And And I think those people, I hate to say it, but you'll see something probably horrible happen to some of those people because it goes up the chain. This is a very dangerous town to play games in. I have no direct proof of that, but I know, but I'm just talking about history. And if, you got somebody making $100,000 a year and somebody offers you $250,000 in some safety deposit box,
maybe they're going to take it. Well, he brought this up. And then Comr, the House Judiciary Committee chair, took it a step further. Comr's like on the warpath. He wants to know exactly what went down with those auto pens, exactly who was in charge. Speculation that it may have been the chief of staff, Anthony Burnell, for one Dr. Jill Biden. Dr. Jill, who couldn't tell that her husband was suffering a cognitive decline. Oh, she wasn't a real doctor. There you go. Oh, yeah. Anyway, Comr, he is like livid over all of this. I want you to see.
How do you think Democrats wrestle with this?
I think they know that what Stephen A. Smith just said is true. They know that the American people think that the judiciary under Joe Biden and Merrick Garland was weaponized to attack Donald Trump. I think they know the legacy media networks were lying about Joe Biden's mental health. They were lying about Joe Biden's family, influence peddling the office of the presidency. And when you've got a family that was clearly guilty of influence peddling, a president who was not mentally aware of what was going on, and you're issuing wide-reaching executive orders and pardons, and the only people that are in the White House representing the Biden family are people who were found in our investigation of influence peddling, then it raises a lot of questions as to what was the decision process and who was forging. Because if Joe Biden wasn't authorizing it, someone was forging his name on some very important documents.
Wow. Okay. Somebody's forging his name. So the question is, who was doing that? And that goes back to what Tim Burchett is saying, is we need to know the answer about who was doing that, because maybe somebody was getting paid to do that. And that could have been a pardon, pay for pardon type of scandal. I mean, this is a big deal. So now Comr's saying, and this is kind of funny because I'm like, oh, good luck with this one. He's saying, you know what? I want to get to the bottom of it. And if I have to drag Biden in for testimony, even though it's hard to do that, he's the president, I will do it. And I'm sort of sitting there going, okay, well, like, is he going to make it that long? And if he does show up for testimony, well, I think Robert Hur knew how that might go down. Anyway, here's Comr. He's not giving up. Good.
Well, I mean, again, we're going to see who was giving the directive to sign these. If everyone says it was Joe Biden, then I'm certainly open to bring him in. It's harder to bring in a former president. The Democrats tried to bring Donald Trump into some things. But at any rate, wherever the trail leads is where we're going to bring him in.
Boom. Okay, he's saying wherever the trail leads us, we're going to bring him in. So, you guys thought you were so clever with that little auto pen thing. You thought you could get around everything. All right, maybe he's not the best, but that's actually coming back to haunt you in a really big way. And I have no love lost for one Jake Tapper and consider him to have been part of the problem. But in some ways, it's rather poetic that Jake is commercial enough that he's trying to make a buck off of this book, because if a conservative had written this book, nobody would have taken it quite as seriously. But the fact that you've got a guy on CNN coming out and finally admitting what we all saw, right? Remember what we saw at G7, where poor Biden was trying to find the parachuter guy and he wanders off, and Georgia Maloney, I knew I liked her then. I've always loved her. But you know what? This was like a special moment in time. You get the rest of them, Macron looking for his camera shot, making sure his hair's okay, right? And at least Georgia, she's a sweet lady. She goes over there to rescue him. But you can't rescue him. You know why? Because he's in a bad state. He can barely put his sunglasses on his head. We're watching the live feed. And yet they wanted us to think this guy was okay. This guy that when he was asked questions, he said, I better not take the questions.
Start the questions. I'll get in trouble.
What's your
And he looks like he's ready to pass out.
Everyone, please move this way. Super Tuesday said, do you have a message for
I mean,
voters?
he looks ill. He looks sick in this. And yet they kept him propped up. I mean, to the point where, there was that invisible chair moment. Remember? There was a chair, by the way. They got mad at the media because some media said, oh, there was no chair. But there was indeed a chair. But he just seems so out of it. Trace is reminding all of you, Trace, a veteran.
I've changed it in a way that now you're in a situation where there are 40% fewer people coming across the border illegally. That's better than when he left office. And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we can do with more border patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look, we had the safest border in the history of our country. The border, all he had to do was leave it. All he had to do was leave it. He decided to open up our border, open up our country to people.
That was one of those very, very special moments. Trace, thank you again for your generosity. He's reminding everybody to like and to share and to comment, because this is how we get bigger and this is how we get the truth out. I'm sitting there saying during all of this, right? You guys can't run him. What are you thinking? You can't run this guy. There's just no way. And yet they were the ones saying, no, you're a cheap fake, by daring to suggest that he's not at full mental capacity. Remember Joe Scarborough, best Biden ever? And that's what we heard over and over and over again, repeated. And so now the question becomes, who was behind all that? Why were they doing that? Think about it. They actually wanted him to get another 4 years. If he had gotten another 4 years, how many more migrants would have come in? I mean, 532,000 non-citizens from the likes of Venezuela, Nicaragua, Haiti, and Cuba being allowed in under his program. The Supreme Court saying, yeah, you can put an end to that. You better believe you can put an end to that. I mean, all these people that covered up for him, why were they doing that? What was the incentive? Just because they hated Trump? I mean, Trump was actually good for the country. If you're a liberal and you're all about the middle class, which you're supposed to be, but I don't think they are, they're all about themselves. That is the problem with communism and socialism. Never works. We've tried it throughout history, all over the world. Never works, okay? Doesn't work because they're too self-centered and too self-focused for it to ever work. But if you're thinking, okay, I want the middle class to do better, guess what? We had the highest raise in wages, median income under Donald Trump in the first 4 years prior to 2020. You actually had a border that was being patrolled. You actually had the onshoring of all these companies who wanted to come back to the USA because we had better tax incentives here. It was all good. And they couldn't stand it, right? So they're going to let a guy in there who mentally was not cognitively there, and then they're going to lie about it, like Jen Psaki now saying, how dare you use the word cover-up? It wasn't a cover-up. A cover-up implies some kind of criminal aspect to it. Well, maybe that's what it was.
I left in May of 2022, just for the facts here. And I have seen Biden once since then, when I took my daughter to the holiday party this last December after he had lost. And so I hadn't seen him in person during that period of time. I never saw that person, not a single time. And I was in the Oval Office every day that was on that debate stage. I'm not a doctor. Aging happens quite quickly. Were things that people saw during that period of time that were similar to that, or would have been in a category of that? I don't know, possibly, right? And all these books are going to tell us.
Like, do you think that were they actively covering it up? Were they sort of in denial, or was that just a bad debate? Like, what is your read on that?
Well, this is what I mean about cover up is a very loaded term, I think.
Well, it means you knew that it was really bad and you're pretending otherwise, versus you're deluding yourself, which I think is what people do a lot.
Well, I understand, but I still think it's like cover up is often like a crime, right? We're talking, when people use that term.
They say it's worse than the crime.
People use that term as they relate to Watergate or the covering up of not sharing public information about a war.
Yeah, and I'm not accusing anybody of a crime.
I understand, but other people have used that term, and I think it's a bit of a dangerous term.
Dangerous for who? Dangerous for you, Peppermint Patty? I mean, come on, right? Dangerous term. Like, we just call it like we see it. And what they did was they covered it up and they tried to get him another 4 years. And it wasn't until somebody had the bad sense to allow him to go on that debate stage. I mean, Lady Macbeth, where were ya? I mean, Dr. Jill, come on. Like, you knew it was bad, right? Would you have actually allowed him to go on stage and embarrass himself that badly? I mean, she may be power hungry, but she's clearly not that smart. Because that was game over. As soon as everybody saw that, there was no going back. And that was when Jake Tapper decided he had to actually come out and say something. And that was when George Clooney even felt like he had to come out and say something. So great. Okay, they're all coming out and saying things. So now we need an investigation, and we're getting an investigation into exactly why they were willing to keep him there, because were there financial incentives to keep the auto pen going? I wonder. Maybe they needed that USAID money. The media, what they did, I'll never get over. And I can remember like saying this to family members and friends, like, I'm just shocked. Like, maybe I'm just naive. Like, I came into this business for the right reasons, right? What the heck is going on? Like, even on The View and on Morning Joe and all these places, like, they are going crazy. The TDS, like, I know we joke about it and call it TDS, but there was something more than that going on. And I get back to what were the financial incentives? I wonder. Because was this just business at the end of the day? And so they decided to fight hard and long because they needed to stay in business? I mean, look what's going on at CBS News. CBS News, ladies and gentlemen, totally folding. They're like begging Trump to settle this case. Paramount is the parent company of CBS News, which runs 60 Minutes. And the parent company would like to get some kind of deal done because you see, Donald Trump is suing them for $20 billion, that's with a B, $billion. The company's only worth $8, right? So like, he's going to put them out of business if he can. And so Sherry Redstone, who's in charge of Paramount, is looking at CBS saying, why do I have these headaches? She just wants to do her Skydance merger deal. Here's reality, okay? Like, for whatever reason, you have a bunch of reporters out there that really probably should be working for ABC News, because maybe Bob Iger would put up with this a little bit better than Sherry Redstone. And they're idealists, and they want to say, okay, you know, this is the way it's going to be. This is the way it's going to be. And we're going to resign. We're going to have a temper tantrum. We're going to get on television on 60 Minutes and say this, that, and the other. We're going to go give speeches at graduations and say this, that, and the other, all anti-Trump, because they hate Trump so much. And they're furious that their company is sitting there saying, well, you know, we got to keep the lights on. And the reality is, if we don't settle this lawsuit, which Donald Trump has every right to sue on, I mean, you think about, it's not fair, right? You can't just you can't libel someone the way that, say, ABC libeled him, George Stephanopoulos. That's why there was a $16 million payment. And so now CBS is like, okay, please take a deal. We'll offer you $15 million for your library. Please take this. Please take this. And what does Donald Trump say? Nope. He doesn't want it. He's holding out for more. Good for him, right? He deserves more, given what they did. Given what they did, ladies and gentlemen. Remember on 60 Minutes, he's like, wow, you guys actually tried to throw the election with this one. The woman couldn't talk. She tried to talk about Israel, and she got into one of those word salad escapades again. And so you guys edited it and cleaned it up for her? Why?
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
Well, Bill, the work that we have done has resulted in a number of movements in that region by Israel that were very much prompted by or a result of many things, including our advocacy for what needs to happen in the region.
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
We're not going to stop pursuing what is necessary for the United States to be clear about where we stand on the need for this war to end.
Woo! What a good, massive difference an editor can make, right? You know, they cleaned her up pretty good and made her more palatable for the American people. And that's what Donald Trump has a problem with. And so, again, that is why he sued for $20 billion. And Sherry Redstone is begging, let's just get this over with. Let's put it behind us. Can we give you 15 mil? And he says no. Meanwhile, you get all kinds of things going down at CBS. You've got the guy who ran 60 Minutes, who was Scott Pelley's producer for many years, leaving because he didn't want to apologize to Donald Trump over that editing snafu. You've got the president of CBS News, Wendy McMahon. She's leaving because she allegedly did not want to apologize for what went down. And then you got Pelley out there, who got a gig for a pretty penny, I'm sure, maybe not that pretty because he's not that famous, at Wake Forest University to give a graduation speech. And what did he do? He used it as an opportunity to rip the president. Yeah. People are making fun of him for it. Lots of fun of him for it. Here it is.
What is the meaning of life? What is the meaning of life? Who are you? You are the educated. You are the compassionate. You are the fierce defenders of democracy, the seekers of truth, the vanguard against ignorance. You are millions strong across our land. I might be sorry that you were picked by history for this role, but maybe that was the plan. Hard times are going to make you better and going to make you stronger. In a few minutes, when that diploma hits your hand, it's not a piece of paper we're giving you. We're handing you the baton. Run with it. Why am I here?
Oh, I know why you're there. I know why you're there. You're there because you're getting a speaking fee. I mean, let's be honest.
I'm here today because I'm 50 years farther down the trail than you are. And I have doubled back this morning to tell you the one thing that I have learned from Volodymyr Zelensky, Nadia Murad, Sam Attar, and 1,000 others. In a moment like this, when our country is in peril, don't ask the meaning of life. Life is asking, what's the meaning of you?
Thank you to Newsbusters for providing us that choice little clip. Ooh, Pelley. Yeah, he's getting pretty badly ripped on this one. Pompous CBS News anchor ripped for anti-Trump commencement speech and so on and so forth. But you know what? Donald Trump's going to have the last laugh because CBS is begging to settle. He's holding out for more. And if you think about it, he might actually be able to use this over with the FCC to actually get rid of CBS's affiliate relationships. That's exactly what's happening with ABC. The FCC head, Brendan Carr, sent that letter to Bob Iger saying, well, since you paid the $16 million, right, because you libeled the president on television, well, we're now finding that Americans don't trust you. I mean, you've admitted it, right? You've admitted it. So since Americans don't trust you, maybe we shouldn't be handing out those affiliations all over the country to all your stations. That could come back to hit CBS. The other thing that could come back to hit CBS and that should come back to hit Disney are shareholder lawsuits. Because once they admit, yeah, they really screwed up, you get the shareholder lawsuits that are going to come out of the woodwork, and they're going to say, well, wait a second, why the heck do you have people like you had at 60 and at CBS overall where nobody's actually minding the ship? So lots of trouble ahead for this company, for sure. Elon Musk is out of the White House. Elon Musk is moving back to his companies. They need him. And, he's saying he's going to back away from politics for now. And so the left has interpreted this as, oh, this is fantastic. He's done. He's leaving with his tail between his legs. He suffered as a result of getting close to Trump. He's never going to be part of the Republican Party anymore. And I'm like, no, you guys are kind of misinterpreting this, if you ask me. I mean, as the headlines crossed on my phone and the New York Times had some nasty thing to say about it, I'm like, yeah, you wish. That's the story that you want to tell. But it's actually quite different than that. It's actually very, very different than that. He left a tremendous, I think, impression, and he's going to have a big effect on that big, beautiful bill as it moves forward in the Senate in terms of exposing all of that ridiculous funding. But also, he's not out of the party. I mean, he learned what the left actually does, right? I want to show you a clip from The Five last night because I thought Jesse Waters said this really, really well. And poor Jessica Tarlov, I mean, I hope they pay her a lot because she just has to sit there and take it. Like she's got nothing to offer. But Jesse really hands it out. He really dishes it out to her. But his point is a good one overall, which is that Elon knows exactly what the left is capable of, and he doesn't want that to ever happen again. He is incredible. He is admired by so many. He is probably going to be responsible overall for some of the most magnificent gifts to humanity. Watch.
Your party's dead, Jessica.
What?
And you basically pushed the world's wealthiest man into our arms.
And now he's running from you. He went on one date.
Wait,
and he's done.
this is the day that he was supposed to leave. Yeah, he's supposed to leave tomorrow, 180 days. How do I know that and you don't,
It's
Jessica?
130.
Listen, you now made Elon Musk the Republican Party's biggest donor. Thank you. Thank you very much. You think he's just going to stop giving?
He said I'm stopping
Okay,
giving.
I've heard that before. They're going to give. You think he's not giving to Vance? After what you did to him, do you think he's just going to bury the hatchet? After you called him a Nazi? After you bombed his cars, you think the next election he's going to be like, all right, you know what? Let the Democrats get back in there. Because what do you think the Democrats are going to do when they get back in? They're going to go all in and try to put the man in prison. They're going to try to bankrupt his companies and investigate the hell out of him. You think he's not going to give anymore? You are I'm not going to say the word idiot, but you've made a huge mistake and you don't realize how dumb it is. Also, you're saying how much you need men. Young men idolize Elon Musk. They want to be him. They want to be based. They want to ride around in his trucks. And they want to hang with big balls. And now every time you attack Elon Musk, you're attacking all of the young men that you need for your party to survive. You're attacking a living legend. We're talking Rockefeller, Ford, Jobs. Who's against him? Booker? He's a footnote. Liz Warren, what has she ever done? This man's expanding civilization. He's cut spending. He's actually found fraud.
Where?
You've never found it, Jessica.
And while he was doing that, he rescued astronauts that they then mocked while they praised Katy Perry.
Yeah,
No one praised Katy Perry, to be clear.
He's like, she didn't look great that shot. He's juggling like heroic acts, and you guys are chirping at him for the silence. You had your chance. You didn't cut spending. You didn't find fraud. You made Kamala Harris the AI czar, Jessica. This is like you're upset because he set a $2 trillion goal and didn't hit it. Okay.
He ended up with $9 billion.
He did more than you did. He did more than anyone has ever
That's
done
not true.
in about 3 decades, Jessica. This is like a fan. Every NFL season.
Just let someone else talk.
No. Every NFL season, every single team tries to win the Super Bowl. That's the goal. They don't all win the Super Bowl. But you're like on the side like, you tried to win the Super Bowl and you didn't win. You're not even playing. You're not even on the field. You're on the sidelines eating chicken.
Chicken, you say?
Chicken.
So Emily, now that
No, it would actually be like the vegan chicken, right? Like they can't actually. That was great. It was great. I had to share that with you because he's pretty funny. He's a good guy, by the way. Again, I used to work with all those people. And Jessica, you guys are like, when is she leaving? When are they going to get rid of her? She serves a purpose, shall we say? Because when he's talking about Jessica, he's basically talking about the left overall, right, as a party. And they've so screwed up that the newest thing out of the left is they're wondering how can they bring in young men? Left wants to know how to win with men. I'm actually putting this on the screen, and this is amazing because the whole New York Times piece devoted to this. You heard Jesse mention it about how, all the guys, the young men, admire Elon Musk. It's so true. Every young guy you talk to loves Elon Musk, absolutely loves him, thinks he's the bomb. And you know what? His team of young guys, big balls included, all sort of admired by young men. And so the left is like, oh my God, what do we do? We're going to spend $20 million to figure this out. And we're going to find somebody who can help represent what we want in terms of young men and the future. So they did it. Ladies and gentlemen, they went out and they found their podcaster for the future to bring in all young men. Take a look.
Well, I also think it's just so abundantly clear that the people who say these things don't actually spend time talking to young men. You know this because we know each other in real life, but I spent a lot of time on college.
By the way, it's the lady on, I guess that would be your left, right? With the glasses on her head. This is their answer. This is how they are going to recruit young men. This is their answer to Joe Rogan, right? The right has Joe Rogan, and the left is now going to have this woman.
Campuses. And I spent a lot of time with
young men.
I love young men. I love frat guys. And in that, I realized, even the ones that identify as conservative are almost always pro-choice. They're almost always pro-gay marriage. You'd be surprised at the number of them who supported Black Lives Matter. And so I feel like people just kind of lump them into this box when the truth is, again, a lot of them are with us on the issues. They're just not part of our coalition because they feel like they're not welcomed in it.
I've never seen this woman before. And so her name is Olivia something. One of my team members, David, was like, you're not going to believe this. You're not going to believe this. The left wants to find the new person, right? So they've got Olivia Juliana, I guess 2 first names, now advising Democrats on how to win over young men. So she is a big Democrat activist and a big Democrat thought leader, and she's going to tell them how to win over men. On the right, you got me. You got Tommy Lahren. You got women that get it. And on the left, you've got, what's her name? Oliviana. You guys keep doing that, all right? You just keep on doing that. And you go for AOC. Make her the presidential candidate. You could put, who did someone suggest to me recently? That judge from Wisconsin, the big one, kind of looks like Oliviana, that allowed the migrant to escape out the back door. You could put that judge on as VP and put AOC at the top of the ticket. And, let's just say we're going to keep on winning. We're going to keep on winning all day long. And that's a good thing, right? Really good thing. Thank you, Jean Rath. Appreciate the generosity. Absolutely appreciate it. And yes, we keep growing. We're growing. They're not growing. Trace, thank you again. Let me read your comment here. Trace, by the way, is a vet, a Marine, former Marine. Oh, thank you so much. Trace writing, Trish, you are just top. Trish, you have done your father good by just being you. My dad's actually a vet as well. So everybody hit the like button, hit the share button, hit the subscribe button to help our fine young lady achieve 1 million subs. Thank you so much, Trace. I so appreciate that. We're going to get there. I promise you. It's going to happen sooner than you think because this show keeps on growing. So Elon Musk is out, right? Elon Musk is out, but he made a huge impact. And I tried to bring this interview to you yesterday, and for whatever reason, the internet started to act up on me. So I want to go back to it. I sat down with Ken Strang shortly after we got the news about Elon, and I asked him what it meant for the big, beautiful bill, which is going to Senate, and what he sort of thought about what was going down with Elon. Kent Strang is a wonderful guy. He's actually over at AFP, a good friend of mine, and he had some very interesting comments. I just want to share that with you. And here we are with my friend Kent. Kent, it's good to see you today because we got so much going on vis-a-vis all this budget stuff. And I got to tell you, I'm excited, but I'm also nervous. Let's start with, okay, we got the big, beautiful bill through Congress. Now it's in the Senate, but like it's tight, right? Like, where do you see this heading?
It is really tight. It passed with a 1-seat majority in the House, and now it's going to go to the Senate. But let's talk about what the one big beautiful bill does that's great for America.
Okay.
It codifies President Trump's 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. It makes
Good.
those tax breaks that were lowered across the board permanent, makes the corporate rate permanent. But in addition to all those great tax policies, it also has border funding to secure our southern border. It expands health savings accounts for Americans to 20 million people. This is indeed the Republican agenda in one big, beautiful bill. And hopefully the Senate does their job on this and gets it passed and onto President Trump's desk soon.
But a lot of people are still worried that it's not going far enough. And you saw Elon left the White House. I mean, we knew he was eventually going to leave the White House and he had to get back to business, and, Cybertruck sales are down in Europe, etc. So he leaves. And of course, the spin on it from the liberal media, New York Times was just cheering this on, saying, he didn't get anything he wanted done. I'm like, I don't know if that's entirely true. I do think that Doge exposed a heck of a lot. And when I look at one big, beautiful bill now making its way to the Senate, I have a feeling like things like the Trans-Opera in Colombia, that's just not going to fly in the final round of things. In terms of the media saying, Elon didn't get anything done, Doge is going away, what's your response to that?
I think that's a really incomplete answer from the media. And what's going to happen is the White House is going to package up some of the Doge findings. So the USAID savings and all those crazy things that they were funding. And they're going to put that to Congress in what's called a rescissions package. And what that basically means is, hey, we don't need this spending and we want you to end it. So Doge did the great work of identifying the waste, fraud, and abuse. And now the White House is going to package that up and take it to Congress, say, hey, we want you to codify this and we want you to end this wasteful spending once and for all. And I'm hearing that they're going to try to do this multiple times. They're going to start first with those USAID numbers and then try to continue to do that. And so I think the story that we're hearing from the New York Times is incomplete because Congress has an amazing opportunity to do what they promised the American people and their electorate. And that was to put an end to some of this crazy bloat and wasteful spending, fraud, and abuse. And so I don't think the Doge story is quite over.
Why do we have all that? I mean, you look at that USAID spending, I'm blown away. Hollywood's very upset. I think I saw Angelina Jolie on the red carpet in Cannes saying that this is just unacceptable and terrible. And she's going to have to pay for her travel to all these godforsaken places herself, I guess, as opposed to being on the payroll of USAID. But USAID had a big role in sort of perpetuating a cultural narrative, right, all over the world that we wanted perpetuated. I guess I would just say something happened, a funny thing happened on the way to the forum because that narrative kind of got twisted and a little bit weird. I mean, to the point where you're backing some causes that I would say are not necessarily very American sort of in their genre, but maybe are keeping all the people with PhDs in transgender studies employed. I don't know, but that's a lot of money to be going to these weird causes.
It is a lot of money going to these weird causes, but it's not just USAID. I mean, I think that Doge showed us that everybody knows this, right? You can't talk to anybody on a street corner in America and say, hey, do you think there's waste, fraud, and abuse in government? That will tell you, no, there's no waste, fraud, and abuse. Even Democrats a few years ago were talking about getting waste, fraud, and abuse out. Nothing ever seemed to happen. And so thankfully, we're going to change the paradigm on this in government. We identified it. We showed the American people. I felt like they were incredibly transparent about it. And now Congress has a very unique opportunity to make good on those promises. Let's do 1, 2, 3 multiple cuts and see where these rescission packages go to. And let's finally take that scalpel or chainsaw or whatever mechanism of cutting you want to the bloat in government.
So, Kent, what about all the talk of, oh, well, maybe we need to actually raise taxes? I mean, that was popular for a little bit. I think Chip Roy was, is that all dead, gone, not to be heard from again?
I am happy to report that I believe that is dead. There were some discussions during the Ways and Means markup when they were writing this bill of increasing taxes or creating a new tax bracket. That got pushed out. That's great news for the American people because that's where our growth comes from. Remember, so many people in America are relying on these tax cuts to fund their employees and to hire new people and to expand their businesses. We've talked to businesses across the country, and every single one of them talks about how impactful the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act was to expanding their business, giving bonuses to employees, hiring more people. If those provisions go away, and if the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act goes away and Congress fails, it will result in the biggest tax hike in American history. We absolutely can't let that happen. The Senate needs to pick this up, get it to President Trump's desk in a hurry so we can pass this and have this certainty.
I'm excited. I mean, I'm relieved, excited, a little less nervous maybe than I was coming into the interview. But let me ask you this, because I think there's sort of a fundamental difference, right? To get a little philosophical for a moment in terms of how the left and right approach all this. Because I keep saying, like, really, guys? Really? Like, I think, and you think about like AOC, who they're now touting new polls, so she's really the leader of the Democrat Party. AOC, Bernie Sanders, all of these socialists, if you would, really believe that the money is best put in the hands of the government itself, who can then redistribute it. Whereas I think conservatives here are so much more, frankly, dare I use the word liberal, right? As in libertarian and freedom in their approach, liberal in their approach, in that they believe the money should go back to the people and that the small business owners, and frankly, even the big business owners, right, have a lot better a way of quote unquote redistributing. It's not really redistributing, it's actual market forces at work. So what I'm left with right now is a very stark contrast between, I would say, right and wrong, but they would say, okay, socialism, where we're going to run it all, and conservatism, which enables the people to have this say and the sort of invisible hand, right? And market values to be what's really running things.
I 100% agree with you. I was with a small business owner in Kansas a few weeks ago, and he told me that when the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act passed, he gave every single employee a $6,000 bonus. And when you look at the policies of Bernie and AOC, who claim to support the working man, the average middle-class American, what do their policies actually do to people? Well, we saw it over the last 4 years. The $5 trillion that they wasted through Bidenomics and the so-called Inflation Reduction Act, what did it do? It cost the average American family $11,400 more just to maintain their lifestyle. So who really is on the team of the little guy? Well, it's folks who believe that you can do more with your own money rather than raising costs, raising inflation, and making life unaffordable. And their policies just don't work. And this is an incredible opportunity for Congress to show that limited government, lower taxes, cutting of spending works. Show that to the American people ahead of midterms. And we know that the results are great. We saw it in 2017 when the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act initially passed.
Look, I love it. It's what we need. Investors know it. People know it. Smart conservatives know it. We'll let AOC sort of twist in the wind there. Kent, it's really good to see you. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. Have me back anytime.
Soon. All right, our thanks to Kent. And if you want to learn more about any of this, I encourage you to go to protectprosperity.com. You can actually get involved in the organization. They're doing lots and lots of good stuff. You know, we were just talking about Elon, and as we were speaking, I have not yet seen this. One of my team members sent in a clip of Elon totally roasting, totally cooking the New York Times. So let's watch it together because, as I said, the New York Times was one of the nastiest in terms of how they portrayed him leaving. Here he is in the Oval Office, totally cooking the New York Times. Let's watch together. Hopefully there's nothing that we need to bleep out because I have not yet seen it.
The president mentioned that you had to deal with all the slings and arrows during your time at Doge. There's this.
Well, some of the people, some of the media organizations in this room were the slingers.
Well, so there is a New York Times report today that accuses you of blurring the line between.
Is the New York Times, is that the same publication that got a Pulitzer Prize for false reporting on the Russiagate? Is it the same organization?
I got to check my Pulitzer. My Pulitzer counter.
It is. I think the judge just ruled against the New York Times for their lies about the Russiagate hoax, and that they might have to give back that Pulitzer Prize. That New York Times, let's move on.
Donald Trump coming out today and basically making it really clear that he's not going to cave to China. So, we had that truce deal in Geneva earlier this month, and it looked like things were moving forward. But now, according to Donald Trump, he's saying that China is slow walking this concession, and it is putting effectively the entire pact in jeopardy. And as a result of that, some investors are getting a little bit nervous. Of course, what did I do today? I bought today because I tend to buy when the markets are going down. That's the whole theory, right? And again, I'm a long-term investor, so I have that kind of flexibility. I encourage you to be invested, first of all, number one. Like, compound interest, don't get me started. I'm going to turn into your mom. Because it is so important for your future. And of course, different people have different time horizons. It's one of the reasons why at my company, 76 Research, we actually created different portfolios for you. You can go to 76 Portfolios to check them out, or you can go to 76 Research. Use code $1 if you want to get the 76 report, just $1 a month as an introductory rate. And no harm, no foul. We'll refund you if you don't like it. But there's an income builder, which I highly recommend for people, 10 to 15 stocks in each one. Inflation protection has a lot of dividend stocks in it, and if you have a longer time horizon, you want that American resilience, because that's the growth portfolio. And you look at some of those numbers, really just tremendous across the board there. So again, I encourage you to be invested in these markets. It's really important in a time like this, is it not? The other thing I encourage you to do, of course, is to subscribe to this show, because we are growing, and we're not going to stop. I mean, amazing news to tell you about today. I couldn't believe this. So I just got this week. YouTube is now publishing a list of the top 100 podcasts all over YouTube. So lots of different podcasts in there. They're not all political, all kinds of different things that we're competing with here. And what they do is they value these podcasts based on the stickiness or the watch time of the viewers. And yours truly, here on the Trish Regan Show, we are proud to report that we are in the top 100. We're in the middle of the top 100, but we're going to climb those ranks, aren't we, guys? Because you're going to keep subscribing, and we're going to keep producing live content, real content, truth, every single day, right here for you, here on the Trish Regan Show. I started this just trying it out, just thinking, well, there's this YouTube thing, and I don't really know much about it. But why not give it a shot? Because I have a lot to say, and I definitely don't want to go back and work for mainstream media anymore, and everybody's talking about this thing. And so, all right, we'll give it a shot. And so many of you have been here from the beginning, and I thank you for all your support and encouragement along the way. And we're going to keep on growing here. It's just an amazing bit of news to be named as one of the top 100 podcasts. I mean, you know how many people are on YouTube, right? It's a huge universe. And so this is a great honor. It's a great honor to have crossed that 800,000 mark for the subscribers, and it's all because of you. I mean, hopefully it's a little bit because of me too, but I think it's because you're willing to respond and to spread the word, and you're a believer in truth. And look, we've been through a lot, have we not, together over the last 4 years? And people lost their jobs over what went down in the last 4 years. They lost their loved ones over what went down in the last 4 years. And I think this is an opportunity now for us to truly take our country back and to take the information cycle back, because we don't need to deal with whatever they're going to spoon feed you at the likes of CBS News or MSNBC or ABC. It is all mainstream media garbage. The legacy media is dead. We are the future. You guys have proven that. I've been part of helping you to prove it. So I love what you've been able to help me accomplish here, and we're going to keep on going. I am live no matter what. Heck, even on vacation. I don't take a vacation. I can't imagine taking a vacation. You've seen me. No matter where I am in the world, I am here live with you every day. So please subscribe. Please spread the word. And we are going to be back with a whole lot more content coming your way over the weekend. I might even pop up live. You know, if there's something big, I can't stay away. And I'm going to see you again, as always, on Monday. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone. Congrats on Top 100. Thank you for making this happen. And I'll see you Monday.